Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley. This is another church in Worcestershire. This is the church of St Edburga in Leigh, not very far from Worcester. The dedication to St Edburga suggests an Anglo-Saxon foundation because Edburga was the granddaughter of Alfred the Great, and like many Anglo-Saxon female saints, she was a princess. And a princess who became a nun. She was educated at Winchester and decided that rather than marry and get into all the sort of court politics and things and be subject to a husband, she'd much rather stay single, and the way to do that was to become a nun. Of course, if you were a princess and you became a nun, very often what happened was, it happened with her, that she was in a nunnery that was founded by her father. She had a great deal of importance, and of course she becomes a saint because the Anglo-Saxons seem to have been quite big on saying, if you're a decent royal, and particularly if you're a royal who becomes a monk or a nun, then, or gets murdered, then you're a saint. And so she's there around about the middle part, or the first part rather, of the 10th century. And in 972, Pershaw Abbey, not very far from here, is refounded and gets her relics, which may suggest that this is why the dedication to St Edburga, who's based at Winchester, where you have a church here dedicated to her, is because her relics have been recently translated, as they say, nearby. It's all a fair amount of politics involved. The church has changed enormously over the centuries. The oldest parts here are 12th century. We've got a really nice big nave here, nice big chancel. A lot of it here is 14th and 15th centuries. And there's some very interesting memorials in the chancel. Before the dissolution, the manor is owned by Pershaw Abbey. But, of course, at the dissolution, it's sold off, and there's memorials to some of the lords of the manor there in the chancel. So we'll have a good look around and see what we can see, shall we? As usual, then, we start at the west end, and here we are within the Norman building. The structure that we can see here is certainly on the north side, says he, quickly calculating which side of is which. On the north side, this is Norman, and you can see here, this is not actually stonework visible here, this is painting. So one of the oldest forms of wall painting, just see here, is where you have these panels. And here we have the font, which is 12th century. Nice bit of Norman work there. Memorial here to George Freake, Esquire, son and heir of John Freake of Shroton, Esquire, by Arundel, daughter of Sir George Trenchard, with his friend, resteth under this marble. A person of great natural and improved parts, the delight and expectation of his family, and hope of that country, who being come hither in a kind visit, and crossing the river, by oversetting the boat, was with his friend Essex Devereux and others nigh to this mansion, cast away the 20th day of February, Anno Domini 1639. He married the Lady Abigail Digby, daughter to John Earl of Bristol, by whom he had two sons, John and George, who died before this sad mishap, as did their mother a few weeks after, in memory of whom and of his affection William Freake, his uncle, did in his lifetime design this monument, and dying enjoined his brother Ralph to see it erected. And we have here the war memorial halfway down the nave. You've got originally this is a reredos, but it's been moved from its original place, so now it's a freestanding war memorial. But it tells us that it was a reredos to Leigh Bransford. That does suggest to me that it might actually be from Leigh Bransford and another chapel, but I could be wrong. Behind it, you can see just the scar of where the door was. And some nice windows here. Obviously, there's a Victorian restoration, which gives us things like the pulpit, which is wooden, carved wooden pulpit, and we have on the front with, I wonder if there's someone here who has the common Presbyterian understanding of the second commandment and has decided, let's hang the pulpit fall over the face of Jesus so you can't see it. But that's the Ascension. Quite an interesting carved pulpit there. In the chancel, we have the most notable memorials. So we've got here, I mean, look at this. This is Sir Walter Devereux, the thrice noble Sir Walter Devereux of this place, knight and baronet, son and heir to Sir Edward Devereux of Castle Bromwich in the county of Warwick, knight and baronet, and grandchild to Sir Walter Devereux, knight, Lord Ferrers of Chartley and Viscount Hereford. So he's 1642. And there he is with his wife, and you've got this lovely, again, fairly late in terms of armour, but of course we are looking at the period of the Civil Wars, so he is in armour and his wife is in a nice fashionable dress. Up above we have Essex Devereux. Now this is one of my favourite memorials of the entire world, and you'll see why in a moment. Here's Essex Devereux and his wife. He married Anne, the daughter of Sir William Court of this country, had one only daughter, Elizabeth. And you can see there they are, Essex Devereux and Anne Devereux, and in between is Elizabeth. And because Elizabeth's a little girl, she's not kneeling down with her parents at the stool. And no, she is sitting on the edge there, hanging her feet in the air. And isn't that just the most wonderful thing ever in terms of sculpture? He died in 1639, of course. Here is William Coles of Leigh. He is the chap who bought the estate when at the dissolution, when the monastery at Pershore was closed down. And here we have the reredos, and you can see, I mean, there's some suggestion maybe the Royal Memorial was put in front of it. I don't think so, because you've got your four evangelists and the cross in the middle, and then this great big east window with the crucifixion front and central. It is finished. And here we have William Coles and his children, and there they are, all ranked together, boys in the front, girls in the back. That's how you did it those days. And there is little Elizabeth Devereux sitting there on the edge of her parents' memorial, and no one has noticed yet. And here is Edmund Coles. He died in 1606, so he's going to be the chap who most likely bought the estate when it was sold at the dissolution. A nice 13th century piscina there, trefoil head, and so that really is the name. You'll notice with the chancel arch here, you've got these alternating bands of light and darker stone, which is a nice thing to do, really. And as we go back, there is a side chapel here, which is now the vestry, but it's still side chapel-y. You see there we've got this nice 17th century communion rails, and here we are in the side chapel, and you'll see in a moment why we're in here. There's a light switch in here that should illuminate. There we are, because here we have a medieval figure of Christ with a hand raised and blessing. I assume it's the Lord Jesus because of the pose. Might be somebody else. And this beautiful painted fake ashlar work. Very, very typical. And so we come back into the side chapel. and a rather gloomy modern window there, but there we are. That's modern windows for you. Organ at the back, you can see there. Choir, these are the choir stalls in front. William Jones, late Little Torrington. There's a 14th century tomb recess here. Mary and the Risen Christ. Quite a common type of window to find, and nothing wrong with that. And there again you can see through into the chancel. And for various reasons, there's no clerestory, there's a lot of stained glass, the nave is very, very gloomy, the chancel not so much. And here's the organ now. It does look like there's a maker's plate on it, and it's Nicholson and Company, Palace Yard, Worcester. Nicholson, of course, being local. And here we have these are Norman columns, so that tells us this is. And there we have the screen. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So that screen, is that a Victorian screen? Is it a restored medieval screen? Either way, it's a screen here in the aisle rather than a rood screen, which they would have been, of course, but just see there the support that I presume would have supported a rood beam at the top somewhere. But that is the inside here at St Edburga's Leigh. Yes, Bransford as a separate, was a separate parish. So, yes, Bransford. So that war memorial reredos will have come from the church there, as one suspected. Right, so let's have a look outside. So here we are outside. You can see this beautiful 15th century tower over there. This is a church that's entered from the west end, and we'll see that shortly as the main road goes past, so you may hear some car noises right now. And just next door is the big house, the court. Again, that's the normal name for the village big house around here is the court, because that's where the manorial court was. So we'll have a look around the outside and again see what we can see. And so here we are, you can see there, this is this very, very nice and probably medieval porch there at the bottom, wooden, and you can see quite weathered because of course its porch has been outside all that time. The tower is this nice local stonework, nice ashlar, and there's of course the flag of St George flying at the top. You can see the sundial there, and on the west face there's a clock. Churchyard cross, obviously the upper part is later. Now we shall see, is this one of those? It is indeed. This is another example of these Worcestershire, Herefordshire crosses where you've got a niche, only a little niche here, but still a niche. There's that lovely wooden porch there. The church stands in a fairly extensive wooded, fairly extensive graveyard with plenty of trees in it. And it's here the exterior, you've got this sort of crazy paving effect, which is Victorian, but obviously that's an older interior. It's been refaced at some point. And move out across the churchyard, being a little bit careful because they've moved graves, so you can't really tell where the ground is solid, and also it's a little bit marshy underfoot. But there we have it. Lovely tower. You can just see the weathercock at the top there. Bronze, so it's now a nice green patina. This nice exterior. I suspect that the stonework, the medieval stonework here, was very soft limestone. It was very soft sandstone rather, and it's eroded, so they've covered it up with this later. Because you can see in the on the chancel there is evidence of some very soft local sandstone. And of course it's not a case of this is a cheap material, but it was a very cheap material. It's a case of this is the local material. You see these big tall windows, 13th century. lancets that let all that light into the chancel. And of course the east window, this has all been renewed in the 19th century and rendered. I suspect it was originally supposed to be the entire building would have been rendered as at Coleridge, because that is very, very rubbly stonework, and it's the sort of thing they would have covered up, because that's what you do in a situation like that. That's what you do with this sort of stonework. You cover it up like this, with a nice bit of render, so that it looks as though it's posher than it really is. This was all done by the monks, of course. The old mansion, the court next door, has been rebuilt several times, although there are some few 16th century, 17th century remains. See, this is very, very nice, these pillar buttresses, really, and that's a very typical Norman feature, as at Coleridge. So maybe the same people, because Coleridge is not very far away. It's about sort of 10-minute drive to Coleridge. Oh yes, while we're here, you can see that's a bit of 17th century work, 17th century gate lodges. The mansion beyond has gone, has been rebuilt. So here we are on the north side. You can see this Norman neat archway there. Now I do not think that is original. That arch is a bit of a mess. I think it's been moved from somewhere else. But below we've got the opening for the north door, which is no longer in use, and it's 11 o'clock. See again remains of render here. And the bell striking the hour. So that, get round to this porch. There we are. Similar construction to the tower at Coleridge. You can see it's held together with wooden pegs rather than nails. And there's that doorway, that's a medieval doorway within. It's a really nice bit of woodwork there. So there you have it, St Edburga's Leigh Anglo-Saxon foundation, lots of Norman work, beautiful tower, lovely porch, and those wonderful memorials inside. As I said, I like that one with the little girl hanging, just dangling her feet in the air, because it's just so natural, so normal, and surprising for memorials that had a certain. There were things you were supposed to do, and that is not one of them. It's just a special place. It's a beautiful church. It's lovely to come here and to be able to do this little video for you. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.